Oh, yes, dear listener. Scouting solo the trail once again for Bots, Thoughts, and Drops number 21. This is Russ in advance of Hardly Strictly Politics number 58. Behind the silver microphone, dear listener, once again. Back in the saddle and on this advanced mission, once again. Once again, after a 2-week hiatus, Bots, Thoughts, and Drops is great again. You believe that, dear listener. Crazy business this week. There are coyotes about. There's snakes about. And lions and tigers and bears, oh my. So let's ride close this week, dear listener. Let's watch each other's six. And no veering off the trail this week, dear listener. Light and noise discipline this week. On this trail, we are in the business of the bottom of the stack, or bots. It's like this, dear listener. You got a tall stack of articles you want to cover. Well, those go exclusively to HSP and the HSP boys. Here on this show, we cover the bottom of the stack, bots. But it's all top of the stack material this week, dear listener. I hope I'm not stepping on Luke's toes, but we'll find out when we record HSP number 58 sometime soon. So let's saddle up and ride this trail, shall we, dear listener? Before we do, let me tell you how to find us first. Find us on Facebook and Twitter at Zero Gravity Med. Send us email at feedback@zero-gravity-media.com. Subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Podbean, and TuneIn, all 5 under Zero Gravity Media. Please, dear listener, hit that subscribe button. Please leave us a review, and please hit that like button. You can also find us on YouTube. Look for Zero Gravity Media and our God tier, Zero G logo. All right, dear listener, how in the hell are you doing? What's going on? I've missed you. Welcome back to this trail. Welcome myself back to this trail. You knew we were going to ride again, as always, dear listener, and here we are, back on the trail. What's new in your world? How's the weather holding up? California, dear listeners, y'all good? Y'all doing okay? This is some crazy shit going on with these wildfires up around there. Seriously, well, frankly, it's curious. So, California, dear listeners, get yourself a generator, stock up supplies, buy a bunch of whiskey, buy a bunch of beer, and y'all take care of each other, okay? And speaking of taking care, are you taking care of yourself, dear listener? Are you good? Are you doing something kind for yourself? Are you giving yourself a gift each and every single day? It takes nothing less than that for you to take care of yourself and take care of yourself well. Have you started Christmas shopping yet? I'm already seeing Christmas ads right now. Can you believe that? It's rather insulting. And it's rather disturbing because I have not began Christmas shopping, and I meant to have it all done by now, but I haven't even started yet, so, oh well. But Christmas cometh, dear listener. You believe that? We holidays now. Is it raining in your neck of the woods, dear listener? Or how's the weather holding up in general? We've had some severe weather here in Dallas, Texas, and I'll tell you about that here in a minute. Are you ready for fall, dear listener? Are you feeling this change? Are you slowing down just a little bit? Is it snowing where you're at? Lubbock, dear listeners. Now, listen, Lubbock, I'm just giving you some shit, okay? I know it's Lubbock, okay? But I'm just trying to have some fun. So, Lubbock, dear listeners. And Amarillo, dear listeners, y'all got some snow yesterday. We know this for a fact. Y'all got a bunch of snow yesterday. Straight from summer, straight into winter. My goodness, this global warming. Halloween cometh, dear listener, and it cometh like a freight train right now, presently, along with All Saints' Day and the end of October and the passing into November, which is what I call the first official month of winter despite the solstice, okay? When it's November, it's winter. That's just how it goes, right? But anyways, regarding Halloween, you got your Halloween candy yet? I do not. I have not bought my Halloween candy yet, and I'll tell you why. I haven't had any time to go to the store and buy Halloween candy. That's a simple fact. But I'm going to get it. I'm going to make it great again. What's your favorite Halloween candy, dear listener? What do you like to get when you go out trick-or-treating? Mine is peanut M&Ms. No, nothing even close. No question about it. Peanut M&Ms. You know, dear listener, do you still bob for apples on Halloween? You know what bobbing for apples is, where you have a feeding trough or something like that, and you fill it full of water and you put a whole bunch of apples in there, and then you dunk your head in the water and you try to grab an apple with your teeth. Do you still do that? I actually know a few people who still throw Halloween parties and bob for apples at their Halloween parties. But except for them, this seems to be an abandoned custom. Very sadly. That was such a great thing when I was a kid, and it wasn't that long ago, where everybody would bob for apples on Halloween. Regrettable. Did you carve a jack-o'-lantern this year, dear listener? You got a jack-o'-lantern out on your front porch? I didn't carve a jack-o'-lantern, and I never carve jack-o'-lanterns because I suck at carving jack-o'-lanterns. Every one I do. It doesn't look like a monster. It doesn't look like anything. It's just a disaster every single time I do it. So, yeah, no jack-o'-lanterns for this pimp right here. But anyway, I know a lot of people still do. I see jack-o'-lanterns out in my community right now, so I know people are doing it. So, dear listener, did you do one this year? I think that's one of the greatest things about Halloween. Now, dear listener, I got to tell you something about Halloween, okay? I love Halloween. I absolutely love it, right? But I always just have horrible Halloweens. I can't explain it, right? Like, things just always go wrong for me on Halloweens, right? I have great Thanksgivings, great Christmases, decent birthdays for the most part. But Halloween is always, well, not always. I've had some good Halloweens here and there, but for the most part, it's always a wash for me. So I wonder about the quality of your Halloweens. Do you love Halloween like I do? Do you love Halloween and have good Halloweens? Do you love Halloween and have bad Halloweens like this unfortunate poor bastard right here? I always do. Something goes wrong every year, whether, whatever. You have a flat tire. And so because you have a flat tire, you miss the party, or, I don't know, you go to jail or something like that. That's not true. I've never been to jail. Dear listener, believe that. Seriously, I've never been to jail. I don't break the law. I obey the law, So, but like things just always kind of conspire. The forces of Halloween conspire against me each year. And it's a really regrettable thing because I love Halloween so much. I think it's so cool, So how does it shake out for you? All right, dear listener, what are you drinking right now? Right? Have you shifted to wintertime beverages, since we're apparently in Texas, at least officially, and the middle of the country, officially in the middle of winter already, straight out of summer into winter? Yes, I have shifted my beverages. I've moved from gin and I'm back on whiskey again. It's a little bit more warming. Gin is kind of cooling. Whiskey's kind of warming. It's cold and rainy here in Texas. We don't have snow where I'm at right now, but it is cold and rainy. And so whiskey is kind of warming me up, and it feels a little bit right to go ahead and get back to whiskey. And I'm drinking beer as well. As a matter of fact, I've got a fine Dallas Blonde right here in the house with me right now on this trail. I'm willing to share. I've got another couple if you want one. Yeah, I do. So I'm wondering if your drinking habits have changed. Mine certainly have. And speaking of drinking, how about cooking? What are you cooking right now, dear listener? Are you breaking out those fall and wintertime recipes? I actually am, right? Like when it was summertime here, I wanted nothing more than like a milkshake or a root beer float for dinner, right? Just give me something cold. I don't care, right? But I have changed. I'm actually going to make myself a pot roast this weekend. That's a fact. Yeah. I don't know what day I'm going to do it yet. But once I started eating meat again, why the hell not? Why not make a pot roast? I love pot roast. So I'm fixing to do it. Got all the ingredients in my fridge. Everything's ready to go. So sometime this weekend, I'm going to do it. I'm very excited about it, man. I'm going to cook it, in fact, in my grandmother's crock pot that I inherited from her. I cook all kinds of stuff in that crock pot. All kinds of stuff. I'm very excited. I love crock pot cooking. So I'll share some at the end of the trail once we get there. I think it's going to turn out pretty good, if I may say, which I do. But what are you cooking, dear listener? Are you starting to cook stews yet? You starting to cook hot chilies yet, right? Are you moving away from having like club sandwiches at night and BLTs at night to cooking warm things. I'm just curious. I am. All right, dear listener, it is that time. It is that time for everybody's favorite part of the show, which is Stories with Uncle Russ. I've got quite a few stories, but like most of them are too boring to tell. I've been working so much, as always, dear listener. I'm not going to sit here and bitch and moan about it, but I have been working pretty hard, right? But the first thing I want to say in Stories with Uncle Russ is that I got so many compliments on that Amber Geiger, Botham Jean shooting piece that I did in Bots, Thoughts, and Drops number 20. It was an overwhelming amount of feedback. Everybody really liked it. And so, dear listeners, if you could let me know what it is that you like about that, I'll try to deliver more of that type of content to you. But thank you so much. I mean, I'm really glad you enjoyed the tales of this absolutely horrible situation. But I covered the facts. That's it. All of it is factually provable. Every last bit of it, right? And well, there's some opinion in there too, to be fair. So did you like the facts? Did you like the opinions? Whatever it is you like, dear listener, I'm going to give more of that to you. But I'm kind of blown away by the amount of feedback. I've never gotten feedback on a piece I did before. That's the thing. I never have. Yeah, man, good show, great show. I like it when you and Luke said this. I like it when you and Luke said that. I like it when y'all's take down of socialism, right? So I guess, yeah, we have gotten feedback on individual segments before, but I've never gotten that kind of overwhelming feedback about any piece I've ever put together. So, disaster though it is, dear listener, I'm glad that you enjoyed it. And we've got another shit show of a situation happening in Fort Worth right now in the guise of the shooting of a Tatiana Jefferson. I've got a bunch of show prep about that right now. It was her funeral last Saturday. It's a horrible situation. It's another absolutely horrible situation, but quite different from Amber Geiger. But the same race-baiting politics, the same shit show of liberalism is being applied to this case as it was to the Amber Geiger case, and this is a very different case. But we're not going to get into it right now, dear listener, because, man, I've got a stacked show for you. We got 3 or 4 topics here that we're going to cover, and we're going to get out, and I bet that this is a 2-hour show. I'm going to try to keep it as short as possible, but dang, there's just so much going on, and it's so exciting. So anyway, we're going to have to cover the Tatiana Jefferson situation in a future episode. That for sure I know is too bots to even get on bots right now. And that is not to insult the victim. That is not to insult the case. That's just to say that right now we're still kind of learning things. And I prefer for facts to develop before I jump. Unlike these race pimps in Dallas, Texas, I prefer to wait for things to develop over in this news cycle these days, it's about a day or 2 days. But with something like race baiting, I would say it takes about a week or 2, right? So please give me a little bit of time, give the facts a little bit of time, and I'll get back to y'all about it. I promise you. Okay. All right. Now, speaking of segments we've done, I actually also got lots of questions about the economy. The economy, rather. That's what I meant to say. The economy, right? That piece that I did on the last show about repo rates, okay? There are lots of questions about that. I've got a lot of show prep about that. Luke and I actually want to have Danielson on the show at some point in time to talk us through all this kind of stuff because he is the true expert. I am not. Danielson is, right? But I've got some data put together that is really interesting and really harrowing. There were more repo buys this week, okay? And we just might get to it in this show, but unfortunately, dear listener, I doubt it. We got too much business, right? We got too much business, but I'll do my best to get to it. Okay. Now, the thing that has been the central fact of my existence for the last few weeks is the Trump rally. Oh my God, dear listener, that is one of the greatest things I have ever done. It is the greatest event I have ever been to. Of all of the raves that I DJ'd at, of all of the club nights that I've DJ'd at, of all of the football games I've been to, that is number one. And Luke was there. Jessica was there. And that's another very special thing about the night is I got to meet the lovely Jessica, Luke's wife. Oh, my God. What an exquisite human being. I got to meet her. We got to watch the president speak. I don't really want to talk too much about it, dear listener, but I cannot stop thinking about it now, 2 weeks later. It was mind-blowing. OMG, mind-blowing. It truly was. Luke will get that reference. Luke and I have a bunch of inside jokes, dear listener. You know how it goes. I mean, we're boys, you know? And I don't want to talk about it too much, but I will just say this. I want to talk about this with Luke for you, right? But Luke's been traveling. Luke's been busy. I've been working like a dog, you know, and so we have not been able to circle up for the post-Trump rally HSP number 58 yet. But I'll just tell you this, okay? I'm going to give one spoiler. Luke and I just sat there in the stands and laughed the entire time. Jessica was sat between me and Luke, and me and Luke are just sitting here looking across Jessica, just laughing the entire time. And so is Jessica, as a matter of fact. So is Jessica. Jessica was laughing her ass off as well, hysterically. But, oh, man, we had so much fun. So much fun. And I'm not going to say anything about it more than that until I get Luke on the horn and we can describe it in mutual detail. All right. So, you know, I've already gone too long. It's already, I don't know, about 15 minutes into the show, something like that. I've already talked too much. So we're going to tell one true story and one true story only. And it goes like this. We're going to talk about barbecue a little bit. Okay. Now, I've got to be really careful right here because Luke and I are very particular about not doxing individual people, including ourselves, like locations of where we live. Because, I mean, this shit is serious right now, dear listener. Like, you dox yourself, you can get absolutely raided by Antifa or some other crazy crap out there, right? So I'm not going to give too many details, but there are a couple things I've got to lay out before we talk about barbecue. And it goes like this, okay? All right. I live, without giving away too much information, in the Dallas area. I'm Dallas, okay? Right? Dallas Stars are my team. I don't watch the NFL anymore, but if I did, the Cowboys would be my team. Texas Rangers are my team. I do love the San Francisco Giants because I lived there for so long and went to so many Giants games and had so much fun there. But you know, those are my teams. I was born in Dallas, right? Pretty much live in Dallas, and so that's it. Okay. Well, we had some very severe weather in Dallas this week. Okay, and it happened on Sunday night. My family are all okay, right? But there are a lot of families who are not okay, including the goalie of the Dallas Stars, Mr. Ben Bishop, the Giant himself. His house was destroyed in North Dallas by a tornado, okay? And the captain of the Dallas Stars, Jamie Benn, has opened his house and hearth to Big Ben Bishop and his family. And they are currently staying with Jamie Benn. And I knew that Ben Bishop's house got destroyed. I did not know that he was staying with Jamie Benn until the game last night, which the Stars won 2-1. It was a great win. It was an ugly win against the Anaheim Ducks, but we're taking any win right now, Stars fans. We're taking anything we can get, right? But yeah, so Jamie Benn is hosting Ben Bishop and his wife and children at his house, and man, that's true team camaraderie right there. I think it's just the coolest thing in the entire world. Okay. But the place where I work, okay, didn't suffer a lot of damage, a little bit, like broken trees around and impassable highways and streets and stuff like that. But most importantly, the power was cut off on Monday of this past week. So the place where I work emailed everybody and said, hey, don't even bother coming into work. We don't have any power. Stay home. Don't come in. So I was like, all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed Monday morning, ready to go to work. And I woke up and I was like, dang, okay, well, I don't have to go to work. What am I going to do? Right? So I thought about a lot of things. Do I go see mom and dad? Do I go see my brother and sister-in-law? They both work in Dallas as well, and their work was not affected. And my nephew was at school, and they have an emergency, I think this is true, an emergency backup generator at the school. So they were out of pocket. I was like, okay, all right, let me check with some friends around, see what's going on in Dallas. All right, well, nobody was affected the same way that I was in the workplace, right? So I was like, dang, well, I'm kind of on my own, you know? Well, what do we do today? Self, what do we do today? What are we going to do? What is the gift we can give to ourselves today? What is the best way we can take care of ourselves today? Well, I want barbecue. And that was it. That was it, right? So I went on a quest. I took a road trip. And I don't want to give away too many biographical details, okay? But there is this barbecue joint in Cooper, Texas called Fat Boys, okay? I've been to Fat Boys before, okay? I've been to Fat Boys a few times. Fat Boys is very storied in Northeast Texas. It is like, you know, in downtown Dallas, y'all got the Pecan Lodge, which is fantastic. Don't get me wrong, right? But you know, it's an urban barbecue joint, right? You've got Mia's Brisket Tacos right there on Lemon Avenue, right? And that's not true barbecue. It's Mexican food, but they do it barbecue style, right? All right, there's a difference here. It's done different in the country, okay? Now, how do I know this? Because I grew up country. That's how I know. I grew up in the country. So I know what country barbecue is, and I know what city barbecue is, right? So I was like, all right, you know, what is the best country barbecue joint I can get to before lunchtime? It's Fat Boys. Right? So I called them up. I'm like, hey, y'all open today? Yeah, we're open. How long are you open? We're open till 3. I'm like, dang, 3? Barbecue joints tend to close early, dear listener, in Texas. They really do, right? So I jump in the car and I race to Cooper, Texas, right? And I know the way to Fat Boys, right? And I mean, you check it out on Google Maps. You can find it. I highly recommend it. It is among my favorites. It actually, you know what? I think it might be my favorite. I think it is, right? So I run up there, right? And I park. And there's a really cool thing about Fat Boys, and it is this. They are very, extremely, passionately pro-Second Amendment. So like before you even get in the door, you see a sign that says, "We love guns, God, and barbecue." On the front door, it says, "Guns are welcome on these premises. This is an open carry premise. You can come in here with your gun," you know, like all this kind of stuff. Like that's how it's done in the country right there. You can't take your gun into the Pecan Lodge in Deep Ellum, okay, in Dallas, Texas. You can't do that, right? But you sure can at Fat Boys. That's one of the symptoms of the difference between city barbecue and country barbecue, right? So I walk in, and it's not too crowded, surprisingly, you know, and there is this very affable man working the front counter. He's talking to a buddy of his who has just bought a bunch of ribs, right? And they finish up talking, and he turns to me. He's like, "What can I do for you, sir?" I was like, man, all right, I don't know. I don't know what to get. He's like, "Well, the only problem is it's all good." I'm like, "Yeah, I know, man. I know. Yeah. Well, you just take your time. I'm just going to sit here and wait on you. Whenever you're ready, we'll go." I'm like, all right. Well, I know already I'm going to want a chopped brisket sandwich with potatoes, potato salad, and barbecue baked beans. And dang, I got to get something for my parents as well because I can't go to Fat Boys and not get something for my parents. You know what? All right, let me get some ribs. Let me get some sausages. Let me get some hot links and also some potato salad and baked beans. He's like, can't go wrong. Can't go wrong. And he rings me up on this Android tablet, right? And I give him my credit card, right? And he swipes my credit card, and it doesn't go through. Swipes my credit card again, doesn't go through. Swipes it a third time, doesn't go through. And I'm like, oh shit, I just got paid. You know, is my credit card getting rejected? Oh man. And he goes, damn it, Janice, can you come up here and fix this thing again? And so Janice comes up there. Right? That's not her real name, by the way. I just made up a name. That's not her real name, right? She comes up there and unplugs the device from the tablet, plugs it back in, and starts resyncing it. Now I lean to the guy I was talking to, and I'm like, is this a Square that you're using? Yeah, it is. I hate this technology and everything. I absolutely hate it, but it sure makes my life handy, because I just sit here and use this Square. It's just a good tool. Puts all of my transactions into my QuickBooks directly, so my taxes at the end of the year are really easy. So I realize at this point in time that I am talking to Fat Boy, and I'm not going to dox his name, okay? But I'm talking to the proprietor of the establishment. I'm talking to him, right? I'm like, oh, yeah, dang. I was like, well, you take cash too? I mean, you take cash? Yeah, I love cash. It's kind of a pain in the ass. But, I almost tell my customers now just to pay me with a card because, it's just easier for me. It's just easier. I prefer credit card transactions because this Square is such a great tool. I'm like, huh. I'm like, okay, well, I got to give you a little bit of shit, man. Oh, yeah, what's the matter? I was like, these hours, man. You've cut down on these hours. Yeah, I have. I've cut down on the hours. I'm like, dang. I mean, it makes it impossible for me to come out here. You're never open for dinner, so I can't drive out here. I can't make it before you close. No, that's not true. That's not true. We're open for dinner on Fridays. I was like, okay. Well, you're open from what? 11 to 3? Yeah, 11 to 3. I was like, dang. I was like, well, what's going on? I'm like, I can never get to Fat Boys because of your hours, man, because it's a hike for me to get here. He's like, well, I just got to tell you, I love what I do. I just don't like working so much, And the simple fact of the matter is that I run out of everything every day. I run out of everything usually by about now. I haven't run out of anything today, but I'm always out of something if I'm not out of everything because, dear listener, this is exquisite barbecue. Exquisite, right? No wonder he runs out every day. No wonder everybody drives from Dallas and from miles around to go to his place and get his barbecue. No wonder he can't keep up. And, it goes like this, man. I'll just be honest with you. I get here at 5:30 in the morning every day, and I put my ribs on, and I put my brisket on, and I start cooking every day. And I can make enough food until, to get through lunch, And so we close at 3, and then I go home, and I spend time with my wife, walk around on my property, and enjoy my life a little bit. And, for me to stay open for dinner, I got to cook all that at 5:30 in the morning and then start cooking again at about 1, just to keep up with lunch. And then, I'm here cooking until 5 p.m. just to get dinner served. And sometimes I even got to work until 7. That's what it takes to keep this place open for dinner every night. And, I just like my life a little bit more. Okay. All right. I get that. All right. Well, listen, man. Listen, I heard a rumor that you were ranked number 3 in Texas Monthly Magazine for the best quality of barbecue. And he laughs. He's like, well, I'll tell you the truth. We were ranked number 5 in Texas Highways Magazine a few years ago. And they called me up and they wanted to do an interview. And so I did the interview. And, I told them what I use. I use pecan wood and, how what my routine is and all that kind of stuff. And sure enough, I looked up in Texas Highways and I was number 5 there. But I heard this rumor about being ranked number 3 in Texas Monthly. And I looked it up on Texas Monthly and I couldn't find it. But I got to tell you, man, you know what? I don't really care about any of that. I'm like, what? I'm like, dude, these people. They put out their 50 best barbecue joints in Texas lists every year, 50 best barbecue joints in the U.S. You don't care about that? You don't want to be on that? No, man, I really don't. I really don't care about it. Well, why? Well, because it goes like this. Listen, this is the only thing I've ever done is barbecue, and I'm damn good at it. I've done it since I was a child, and I don't know how to do anything else, and I've gotten so good at it that I can actually make a living at it. And, I don't know about, I just found that when I was paying attention to these lists and these rankings, it made me unhappy. It turned what I do into work instead of just having fun. And I just didn't like it that much. I was like, okay. I was like, all right, yeah, okay. I totally understand that. But like, man, you don't want to get in the mix, with all these other barbecue joints, No, I really don't care. I'm like, all right. Well, what about Ernie's? Yeah, I know Ernie. The problem with Ernie's is that Ernie doesn't do it anymore. He's hired people that do his barbecue now. And so, he's out of the business. It's not as good as when Ernie did it, but I love Ernie's. All right. What about like Pecan Lodge? Yeah. I've been to Pecan Lodge. It's so expensive. I was like, yeah, it is expensive. But yeah, I like it quite a lot. I know those people. They do really good work. They do really good barbecue. I was like, yeah. I was like, all right. Yeah, okay. I get it. I was like, man, I went just about a month ago to this place called Hutchins Barbecue in McKinney, Texas. Do you know it? Yeah, I know the Hutchins. I know them. I've been there numerous times. I really like what they do. They're really good barbecue. I was like, you think it's good as yours? Well, I don't know about that. But it's really good. I go to all those places. I'm like, huh? He was like, what you need to be interested in. There's a place in Royce City, Texas, and I can't remember the name of the place right now, dear listener. It escapes me. There's a place that opened up in Royce City, Texas, just a couple of years ago, and it's called whatever it is. You need to go check them out. They do really good barbecue. If you're going to go around and study barbecue, you need to go check them out. Once again, is it as good as yours? Well, I don't know about that. I was like, huh? Excuse me, dear listener. He goes, listen, man, listen. I'm not trying to be better than anybody else. I'm not trying to make all these lists. I'm just trying to do what I do every single day. I tell you something, man. When I saw my name in Texas Highways Magazine, I saw my store there in Texas Highways Magazine, it was pretty satisfying, right? And then I looked around for Texas Monthly and I wasn't listed there. And that made me really depressed. And I began to care about all this more than what it is that I do, which is making barbecue. And what I live for is just waking up these mornings, coming in at 5:30. I throw my ribs on. I sample everything I cook. And then I'll take one of those ribs and I'll eat it. It's not there today. And then I'll try one of my sausages. I'm like, all right, that's really good sausage. But then the next day, I'll come in because, some days the wood just isn't right. Some days it's too cold and you can't get that smoker at the perfect temperature. Some days it's too hot and the smoker gets too hot and there's nothing you can do about it. And all of these factors are very important into making the perfect barbecue. But on some of those days I come in and I throw the pecan wood on and I get it at the perfect temperature and I throw my rack of ribs on and I pull out my ribs. Ribs are especially, just so you know, dear listener, ribs are what he's most proud of. And I pull out my ribs about 10 in the morning and I cut one of them off and I eat it. And I'm like, I believe that is the best rack of ribs I have ever made. And that is much more satisfying to me than being on any of these lists, being considered to be the best, being better than everybody in the city, all those barbecue joints down around Austin. It's more important to me to be the best I can be every single day. And that is how it's done, dear listener. And thus concludes Stories with Uncle Russ. Check out Fat Boy's Barbecue in Cooper, Texas. It's on Highway 24, just past the Dairy Queen. You can't miss it. Actually, Paris, dear listeners, because we have a few of y'all. Oklahoma City, dear listeners. Lubbock, dear listeners. Wichita Falls, dear listeners. It's going to be just before the Dairy Queen when you get there, okay? Munster, dear listeners. Who else we got? Bonham, dear listeners. Avery, dear listeners. Clarksville, dear listeners. It's going to be, if you hit the Dairy Queen, you've already missed Fat Boys. You got to turn around and go back about 300, about 100 yards, 300 feet, okay? You're going to find it right there on your right-hand side once you hit the Dairy Queen and you have to turn around. Fat Boys Barbecue in Cooper, Texas. Dear listener, I think it's the best I've ever had. And that smoke master, that barbecue master, the fat boy himself, whose name I'm not going to dox, does the God tier work, knows how to live, knows how to balance work and life, and knows the difference between country and city. And he chooses the country. And I get it. I get it. All right. Well, let's get into the commentary here, shall we? The hard-hitting political commentary. Now that we're 30 minutes into the show, damn it, I wanted to try to keep this show short because the content itself is so long. So long. We have a lot of stuff to get through, dear listener. So, all right, the economy is thrown out. We're not getting to that. We're already too far into it. We're going to talk about John Bull Durham, William Barr, and Sidney Powell. We're going to talk about Jeffrey Epstein. We're going to talk about something going on in Texas on a ballot initiative, and that's how we're going to leave this show. So we got 3 topics for the day, and that's all we're going to hit, okay? Sorry we had to throw out the economy. I know y'all got some questions. Wish we could get to it, but we just can't do it this week because I was overindulgent in the barbecue stories about fat boys. My apologies. I hope you enjoyed it nonetheless, though. Okay. So, this first segment. Let's just lay out some basic facts, okay? This first segment is Barr, John Bull Durham, and Sidney Powell, okay? It is a very convoluted topic. It is Spygate through and through is what it is, okay? Now, a lot of these facts that I'm fixing to lay out for you, we've already laid out time and time and time again, okay? But for the case that I'm trying to make today, it bears repeating. And I hope that you understand I don't mean to be repetitive. Let me go from one point to the next, and it will be worth your time, dear listener, I promise you. Okay. Now, the first fact number 1. John Bull Durham and William Barr have been traveling the world. They've been going from country to country. They have been investigating the, quote, origins of the 2016 Russia investigation. Remember that. The origins of the 2016 Russia investigation, okay? So far, we know for a fact that they have been to Italy, Australia, and London. These are very important loci within the Spygate scandal, okay? We know that they've been to those 3 places. Damn. Wonder where else they've been, dear listener. I wonder where else they've been. Have they maybe been to, I don't know, Ukraine? We don't know this yet. We don't know this for a fact. But we do know from the transcript of President Trump's call with President Zelensky of Ukraine on July 25th of this past year that President Trump said, hey, I would really like for you to do me a favor and talk to my Attorney General, William Barr, and my personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani. We'd like to get to the facts of the Hunter Biden scandal, and we know you've got the server. We know that CrowdStrike's server is there. We'd like a little bit of cooperation with that. We know that this was specifically mentioned. So this is why I ask, dear listener, what is in Ukraine? The DNC server is in Ukraine. President Trump released the transcript where he acknowledged that he knows exactly where the DNC server is. Okay? So for this reason, and this reason only, I ask, have John Bull Durham and William Barr been to Ukraine? And have they collected this server? Okay. Now, let's talk a little bit about more of these details right here. Okay. What is the DNC server? Well, it's their email server. Okay. It is the one that they claim that, oh my God, our server was hacked by Russians and leaked to Julian Assange, who published all of our emails on WikiLeaks. Oh my God. Right? Okay. All right. Well, some interesting things happened after that fact. They claim to be hacked by Russians, right? Well, it turns out that none of that nonsense is true at all. And I can prove that, but let me not get ahead of myself, okay? What the DNC did, the FBI was very concerned, and they were like, yo, okay, your email server got hacked by Russians, right? The Russians leaked to Julian Assange, and he published all of your emails, your frankly embarrassing emails on WikiLeaks. We want to take a look at that server. Oh my God, FBI, no, you can't look at our server. We're going to hire this company called CrowdStrike. Oh my God. Right? That's what they did. They hired CrowdStrike. Now, who owns CrowdStrike? Well, it's really curious because CrowdStrike headquarters is located in Ukraine. CrowdStrike is a Ukrainian company. CrowdStrike is owned entirely by one particular Ukrainian whose name escapes me at the moment. I can't remember his name. I'm sorry about that. But dear listener, how in the hell can this even happen? I don't want to get off on a LARP about this, but the FBI comes and says, we want to take a look at your server, and the DNC has the temerity to say, no, you can't look at our server. We got this, bro. We're going to a corrupt private company here in Ukraine called CrowdStrike. You can't look at our server. We're letting them investigate the server. How does this even happen? Right? How does the FBI not double down on them and subpoena their damn server? Right? How can the DNC refuse the FBI? I'll tell you why, dear listener, because they own the FBI. The DNC, the deep state party, owns the FBI. So they just say no, and the FBI goes, oh, okay. Until now, that is. Until now. And let me not get ahead of myself. We'll get there. Okay. Now, we know this narrative about Russia hacking the DNC email server to be completely false. And how do we know that this is false? We know this is false because of the investigations of one God tier, William Binney. Okay? William Binney was able to prove that the email data was transferred at a rate to that server, from that server rather, far faster than what any internet connection could accommodate. That means it couldn't have been hacked on the internet by Russians. Okay? It was probably the data, that email database from the DNC server was probably downloaded to a flash drive, right? Because even really, most USB sticks don't copy data that fast, okay? It was probably some type of flash media. It damn sure didn't happen over the internet, okay? So all of this theory about Russia hacking that server is completely false. Completely false. Well, what does CrowdStrike do? They come out and they're like, oh my God, the Russians did hack the DNC server. The Russians hacked it and then they gave it to Julian Assange. Oh my God! Is exactly what they said. Okay? Now President Trump is talking to Zelensky and saying, hey, we know that you've got the server. We'd like to take a look at it with our forensic investigators, right? And this is the source of the entire impeachment scandal going on right now. But again, let me not get ahead of myself. Okay? What's important for right now is that it is impossible that the Russians hacked the DNC server. It is forensically impossible. The only way that database could have been, quote, hacked, oh my God, and leaked to Julian Assange was by somebody plugging in flash media to the server on which that email database was contained. Okay? That's the only way. Okay. So stop and think about this for a minute. What does that mean? What does that mean? Okay. Well, that would mean that if Russia, quote, hacked the server, oh my God, they would have had to break into the DNC headquarters, break in, plug in a flash drive into that computer, copy the database, and then exfiltrate from the DNC headquarters. Well, there's a simple problem with this. There was no break-in at the DNC headquarters. There was no break-in. So there's no break-in. There's no hacking. How in the hell was the DNC email database copied? Well, I'll tell you how, dear listener. There's only one way. It came from within. From somebody who had access to the DNC headquarters. From someone who had access to the DNC server. From someone who had the technical savvy enough to know what database and which files he had to copy. From someone who was hostile to the DNC because of the way DNC deep state politics are run. And who was that man, dear listener? We know exactly who it was, don't we? We know exactly what his name is, don't we? I'm not going to say it in this right now for the interest of factual truth, but we know exactly who it was that got those deep state, or no pun intended, DNC emails. We know. We know who it was, not what government entity it was, who it was that gave them to Julian Assange. Julian Assange, who rots in a London prison right now, awaiting extradition to the United States, probably to face espionage charges, probably is what's going on right now. Again, we've already covered this in previous Bots, Thoughts, and Drops and numerous HSPs. I think that if they actually succeed in extraditing Julian Assange to the United States, this whole scandal blows up in their faces. 2019 is the year of the boomerang. Dear listener, the boomerang is going to kill you. That which you throw is going to come back at you. And that is what's going on right now. We know who did it. We know who did it. We've already really proven, we've already said his name. You know his name. We know who did it. It wasn't Russia. So what we have here is a situation where CrowdStrike isn't an independent investigator, a private investigator of any type that supersedes the FBI somehow. They're a cover-up organization headquartered out of Ukraine. Now, did William Barr and John Bull Durham go to Ukraine and get that server? We don't know. We don't have any idea. We don't know where the hell they've been, to be honest, dear listener, but we do know that the fake Russia hacking thing is exactly what it is. It's a fake Russia hacking claim that caused the Russia investigation. But what we can say right here is that if you were investigating the origins of the Russia probe, the CrowdStrike server would be a pretty damn good place to start, don't you think? I mean, you might as well start there since Robert Mueller didn't even touch any of that information. You might as well start there. Were I John Bull Durham and William Barr, I'd probably start there, right? At the hacking. That really is what originated the Russia claim. And they're trying to find the origin of the Russia investigation. That's probably a logical place to start. It's going to Ukraine and getting the server. Now, what else do we know? Okay. We know that John Bull Durham and William Barr have been traveling in tandem. They've been traveling to numerous countries around the world, and we know that they have been doing this surreptitiously. They've been doing this very quietly, incognito. They've not been telling anybody in the DOJ exactly where it is they're going. They've not even been announcing to these foreign governments that they're coming to their country and we've got questions. They've not even been doing that until they show up on their very doorstep. They've not even been announcing to our own embassies in these countries, the United States embassies in these countries, hey, we're coming to town. Can you hook us up with a room? They've not even told our own embassies. Now, I wonder why this is. Why the secrecy? Why would you not tell your home country's embassy that you're coming for a visit when you're the Attorney General and the Attorney General's chief investigator into the, quote, origins of the Russia probe? Well, I'll tell you why, dear listener. It's because of this. It's because embassies and consulates fall under the auspices of the Department of State, which is equally as corrupt as the very DOJ, which Obama corrupted himself, which William Barr and John Bull Durham are investigating. We know that the State Department ran its own intelligence operation, as we've already described in these hallowed halls, and we're going to spare your time right now and avoid doing it again. We know that they ran intelligence operations illegally in the State Department. So it's only one small step in logic to guess that probably, since embassies fall under state, that John Bull Durham and William Barr are not letting embassies know that they're coming to town, coming to these countries with questions. We're looking for evidence. They're not letting them know because they don't want the State Department to cue any of these governments to destroy the evidence before they get there. That would also mean they don't even tell these governments, these countries they're coming. They show up on their doorstep and they're like, yeah, we got questions, right? you need to answer this, this, and this, right? They're doing this to get in front of evidence being destroyed. But what is most interesting here, dear listener, is that it is only a small guess to assume that William Barr and John Bull Durham think that if they reported it into an embassy, somebody at the State Department would direct that government to destroy whatever evidence it is that they're coming after. Destroy it. Just like Hillary Clinton destroyed and bleach bit all of her BlackBerries. Just like that. Just destroy it. If you destroy it, it just doesn't exist anymore. Oh my God, we don't know what happened. I don't know. Oh my God, it's such an oversight. Oh my God. Now, this is some really gangster shit, okay? This is some really gangster shit going on right now, okay? Stop and think about this. The Attorney General of the United States and John Bull Durham just kind of traveling together secretly, incognito, showing up in Italy, showing up in Australia, showing up in London, saying, yeah, we've got questions. You're going to answer them. We're walking the F out of here with evidence right now. That's what's going on. Not even our own embassies know that we're here. Gangster. Now, we know a few other things. Not a whole lot, but a couple other things, okay? We know that while John Bull Durham and William Barr were in Italy, the Italian government turned over to Barr and Durham Joseph Mifsud's BlackBerries, all of his phone records, perhaps the phone themselves, and all of the metadata about those records. Oh, you know what? There's one other point I wanted to make. Speaking of metadata, okay, metadata is exactly what it sounds like, dear listener. It's data about data. That's what it is. It is the data's data, okay? This is how William Binney was able to prove that there was no hack, because when Julian Assange started posting all of the DNC emails, right, William Binney got into the metadata of those emails and could tell when each email was saved. The save rate was way too fast for internet transmission, probably USB stick transmission, probably only a flash drive can save that fast, right? Okay. So now let's jump back forward now. Sorry I didn't make that point before, but now that we're talking about metadata again, we know that John Bull Durham and William Barr have all of the data and the data about the data and the data about the data about the data from one Joseph Mifsud. Now, who is Joseph Mifsud? I'm preaching to the choir here, dear listener. Y'all are so damn smart. I don't have to tell y'all again. We've already talked about it on this trail so many times, in these hallowed halls so many times, but y'all know who he is. He's the one who took a run at George Papadopoulos, who was like, hey, George Papadopoulos, you hear anything about these Russians having all of the DNC emails? You hear anything about this? No, I haven't heard anything about it. 1 week later, Alexander Downer from Australia takes a run at George Papadopoulos. Hey, George Papadopoulos, you hear anything about these Russians having the DNC emails? Oh, that's funny. This crazy bastard named Joseph Mifsud in Italy just told me that a week ago. And they entrapped him. The push-pull of information, right? That's who Joseph Mifsud is. What else do we know about Joseph Mifsud? Well, it was for so long alleged that, oh my God, Joseph Mifsud is a Russian spy. He's a professor from Malta teaching in Italy at this intelligence school, and he is an asset of the Russians. Oh my God! For years, we heard that. But it's not true. What is true? Joseph Mifsud is an FBI asset. Now, we don't know that for certain. Okay? We don't know that, but we do. We do. But we do. I do. We do know that he is an asset of Western intelligence, not of Eastern intelligence, of Western intelligence. We know this for a fact. Okay? It's FBI. I'm just going to tell you that. It's FBI. Okay? Now, how do we know this about the BlackBerries? How do we know that it is that William Barr and John Bull Durham got his BlackBerries, or at least all of the data therefrom and all of the metadata therefrom? How do we know this? Well, because this happened on August 17th, dear listener, not too long ago, in these halcyon days of 8 days ago, right? Well, it was leaked. It got leaked. Oh my God. John Durham and William Barr took the BlackBerries from the Italian government and thereby insulted their sovereignty and took their own evidence for their own investigation for this sham organization that the president is running here in the United States. Well, okay, yeah, it got leaked, but before it got leaked, something really interesting happened. Something really interesting. Okay, what was it? Sidney Powell subpoenaed those BlackBerries. Sidney Powell, the defense attorney for one Michael Flynn, the former national security advisor for Donald J. Trump, who she is defending right now, dear listener, and she is going to get him freed. You believe this? She's going to get him exonerated, but let me not get ahead of myself. Right? Well, it turns out that before the leaks even dried on the pages of the New York Times, before the leaks even dried on the pages, above the fold section of the Washington Post, Sidney Powell had already subpoenaed the Justice Department for, I want those phones. I want that data. That data is necessary for the defense of my client. I want it right now. Dang. Folks, let me tell you a couple things about Sidney Powell, okay? All right. You already know it. You've seen her on Lou Dobbs and occasionally on Tucker and on Hannity for a year before she ever came to the defense of Michael Flynn, right? She is God-tier smart. She is a God-tier attorney, okay? I mean, first of all, she lives right here in Dallas, Texas. So Dallas represent. She practices right here in Dallas, Texas. She practices right here in Uptown in Dallas, Texas. That's a fact. All right. Secondly, she knows the game. She has written books about the corruption going on at the DOJ. She knows all about it. She understands all the players. She understands all of this Andrew Weissman bullshit, this Robert Mueller bullshit that goes on at the DOJ, this Rod Rosenstein bullshit. She's already written books about this, okay? That's how smart she is, right? And what's more important, is that she hates it. She absolutely hates this corruption. She hates this weaponization of the judicial system and the DOJ against American citizens, right? Another thing about Sidney Powell. She never says anything. Now, remember this. This is really important, okay? She never says anything she cannot prove in a court of law. She is very cold, very calculated, right? She never tells a lie, and she never says anything she can't prove. Now, remember this, dear listener. This is going to become very important, okay? Now, the last thing I want you to know about Sidney Powell is this. She gets what she wants, right? She gets it. If she wants Joseph Mifsud's BlackBerries, she's going to get it. And she's not going to stop until she gets that information, right? And she's going to hold up everything until she gets what she wants. This is what's going on in Michael Flynn's defense right now, is that she's not getting the information she wants because she knows that information is going to exonerate Michael Flynn, and Andrew Weissman is holding this information up right now. We know this to be true. So she's like, we're not going forward one damn step until you give me the exculpatory information that I want right now to get my client off. We're not going anywhere until you give me what I want. And that's why the Michael Flynn trial is being held up and delayed so much. Don't believe me. Don't believe me about any of this. Okay, I got a piece here. I'm going to read the whole damn thing for you, okay? It's from The Federalist. It dropped on the 17th of October, the day that Sidney Powell subpoenaed those BlackBerries. It's written by one Margot Cleveland, who is a God-tier writer. I'm going to take it from the lead. It goes thus. On Tuesday, attorney Sidney Powell struck again, revealing yet another huge development in the Spygate saga between the lines of her latest motion. That motion, filed in the still pending criminal case against Trump's former national security advisor, Michael Flynn, demanded exculpatory evidence from federal prosecutors. But unlike her previously filed motion to compel, here Powell seeks evidence, quote, that has only recently come into possession, and the evidence sought, the data and metadata from two BlackBerry devices owned by Joseph Mifsud. While Powell's latest motion barely equaled 2 pages, the implications are multi-pronged and monumental. That the U.S. government has only recently obtained possession of a pair of smartphones used by Joseph Mifsud tells us 2 things. Number 1, that Attorney General William Barr and U.S. Attorney John Bull Durham's probe into the origins of the Russia collusion hoax is both serious and successful. And number 2, that the crossfire hurricane targeting of President Trump and former special counsel Robert Mueller's investigation were neither. After all, Mifsud was the man whose tip to young Trump volunteer advisor George Papadopoulos that the Russians had dirt on Hillary Clinton supposedly formed the basis for the FBI to launch crossfire hurricanes targeting of the Trump campaign in late July 2016. Yet no one bothered to interview Mifsud. I was like Maria Barty Roma right there. It's Maria, listen, honey, it's Mifsud. It's not Misfood. It's Mifsud. Just a respectful correction, Maria. No offense. I hope you take me up on that, though. Until 6 months later, when he traveled to D.C. to speak at a conference sponsored by the State Department. Imagine that. Oh, my God. Imagine my surprise. And then the FBI let him go, later blaming Papadopoulos for their inability to properly question the purported Russian agent. Mueller seemed equally uninterested in Mifsud, a strange position to take toward a putative enemy agent. In contrast, Barr and Durham seemingly considered Mifsud key to understanding the Russia collusion investigation. At least their reported trip last month to Italy suggested as much, with the Washington Post repeating the news that while they were there, Barr and U.S. Attorney John Bull Durham were played a taped deposition from when Mifsud reportedly applied for police protection. Let me read that one more again. Barr and U.S. Attorney John Bull Durham were played a tape deposition from when Mifsud reportedly applied for police protection. Dang. I wonder what he needs protection from. Why does he need police protection? Things that make you go, Back to the piece. The timing of the Italy trip, Powell's motion, and her assertion that the government only recently came into possession of Mifsud's 2 smartphones all suggest that Barr and John Bull Durham returned stateside with the evidence, something a serious investigation into potential Russia collusion back in 2016 would have already looked at. It would all be an impossibility for our government to cordially obtain Mifsud's smartphones if he were truly a Russian agent. If he were, he'd not hand over his smartphones to the United States or allow the Italian government to do so. Powell's revelation that the government has Mifsud's 2 BlackBerries goes deeper, too. It connects to the shocker Powell shared in a previous court filing that Mifsud attended the Russia Today dinner in Moscow on December 17th, 2015, where Flynn was photographed with Vladimir Putin. That dinner marks a second connection between Trump campaign folks and Mifsud, with Papadopoulos as the other. Get it, dear listener? The FBI has used Joseph Mifsud since 2017 to run not just at George Papadopoulos, but also at Michael Flynn. No wonder Sidney Powell wants those BlackBerries. No wonder she wants them. Hell, I'd want them too. It would be negligent not to get them. Why did Michael Flynn's previous attorneys, who actually testified against his partner, his business partner in the Flynn lobbying agency, why did they not give her this information? They have it. Why didn't they give it to her? Why does she still not have any information from Flynn's previous attorneys? I'm sorry to laugh. It's a horrible situation, but it's so absurd, it is not to be believed. In her motion, Powell suggests Mifsud had tasked against Flynn, seeking, along with other agents, to arrange, quote, unbeknownst to him, connections with certain Russians that they would then use against him in their false claims, end quote. But Powell is handicapped in making this argument because the prosecution refused to turn over much of the evidence she seeks to defend her client. Federal prosecutors have not said no to providing Mifsud's smart data, at least not yet. Instead, in response to Powell's request for the data, the government told her that, quote, if we determine that they can, let me do William Barr voice here. If we determine that they contain information that is discoverable or is relevant to sentencing, we will produce them to you. This response proves intriguing and triply so. First, the prosecutors speak of deciding, which suggests that they have not yet reviewed the smartphones. That raises an interesting possibility that Barr and John Bull Durham are considering the investigation of the investigators and they had yet to see the smartphone or data. Yet Powell knew about the phones, suggesting she has a well-placed source sympathetic to Flynn's plight or outraged by the political and prosecutorial abuse on display in this case, or both. Finally, the government's response. Listen, dear listener, go back and listen to this segment again. Actually, just look at the piece. It was on 1017 on the Federalist by I just queued back by Margot Cleveland. Of course it was. Margot Cleveland does the work. Oh, I can't find my place. Sorry, dear listener. Okay, here we are. Finally, the government's response indicates that federal prosecutors may be ignoring presiding Judge Emmett Sullivan's standing order. In that standing order, Sullivan ordered the government to produce, quote, any evidence in its possession that is favorable to defendant and material either to defendant's guilt or punishment. But in its response to Powell, the government speaks of only providing evidence, quote, relevant to sentencing, and seemingly ignores the court's directive, which was to provide any evidence favorable to Flynn and material to either his guilt or his punishment. The court is not likely to rule on Powell's latest filing for some time, and who knows, by then, Barr and John Bull Durham may have already issued their own report. Oh, damn. Dang. All right, let me take a sip of whiskey here real quick. Now, okay, I've got to give a mea culpa here, okay? All right? I've got to give a mea culpa. I've expressed some doubt in William Barr, and I think justifiably so, dear listener. This investigation has taken way too long, okay? James Comey was let off the hook. He was not recommended for prosecution. Too many seeming missteps along this trail, this grueling investigation. But, dear listener, I'm starting to think that I may have been either premature or flat out wrong. I mean, let's see how this plays out. But remember, Sidney Powell gets what she wants, okay? Hell or high water. Sidney Powell gets what she wants. If we don't see some information coming out now, it's William Barr that's covering it up. And you bet your ass that William Barr understands this fact. Now that Sidney Powell is involved, oh man, if he is a deep state dirty player, he's checkmated and he knows it, okay? But that's kind of not what I'm seeing going on. I mean, dear listener, because of this gangster shit I just described to you with William Barr and John Bull Durham flying incognito all around the world, I see something else going on here. And there have been some developments in the last couple of days, and let me not get ahead of myself. Let me not get ahead, okay? But there have been some developments actually just in the last 24 hours that made me think, yeah, maybe William Barr is doing the work, right? Maybe he had to take his time to do this work, right? Remember, dearest listener said, I have no choice but to trust William Barr. I felt the same way. I had no choice, right? We may just be seeing that trust bear fruit. This is really weird stuff going on with Barr and Durham. Really weird. Like, I don't recall an investigation into the origins of government corruption ever going on like this at all, where the whole government, except for two men, is shut out from even knowledge of their movements. Never heard of that. Never heard of that. Let's just see how this plays out, dear listener. I'm not going to sit here and give you a tick-tock, tick-tock. You know, refer to Sean Hannity for that, okay? Sean Hannity has been doing God-tier work on all of this daily. I'm not disrespecting Sean Hannity at all. I watch Hannity every night. I love what he does, right? The tick-tock, tick-tock is ringing a little hollow after all of these years of this bullshit going on, okay? So I'm at the point right now of let's just see what happens. Let's see what happens. Let's wait till we get some facts. Okay? Now, I think it's important to establish some context here. Don't you, dear listener? Okay? What is the context for all of this stuff going on with Sidney Powell, who we're going to get back to here in a minute? We're not done with Sidney Powell yet. Not by a damn sight. Okay? But the context is this. Okay? The deep state impeachment freight train is picking up momentum. It's picking up steam. It's going downhill, actually, and it's fixing to crash when it reaches the bottom of that hill. You believe that? When it hits the river bottom, that train's going off the rails and it's going to crash. Adam Schiff leaks to the press with impunity all of this information that he withholds from Republicans in the Congress. He leaks with no repercussions whatsoever in this impeachment inquiry. Oh my God. The only thing is, it's not an impeachment inquiry. It's not yet been voted on. It is not legal. It does not have judicial authority for impeachment. It is a fishing expedition right now. It is looking for something to charge President Trump with. Something, anything. That's what it is. It is an exploratory mission, just like the Robert Mueller probe was. We always said that this is Robert Mueller 2.0. Boy, were we ever correct, Luke and I, about that. It certainly is. They're looking for something, anything with which to charge the president. Anything. And it's failing. Okay? Now, while we're here, and before we move on any further, okay? Dear listener, I absolutely suggest to you and respectfully demand that if you have not read the transcript yet, go read the transcript, right? Everything about this impeachment bullshit is just background noise from the deep state leftist media. It's heat lightning. It's meaningless radio noise on that shitty AM station in a thunderstorm. That's what it is, okay? It's am-jam radio noise. That's all it is, okay? The only thing that matters is the transcript itself. So go read it. It's a pretty quick read if you haven't done so already, okay? After you read that transcript, keep in mind the context of President Trump's conversation with President Zelensky of Ukraine, okay? What was the context? What was the purpose of the call? What were the good tidings that were exchanged? I'm going to leave you with that suggestion for a week or two, dear listener. I'm going to give you some time to go read the transcript. We're not going to read it here in these hallowed halls. It's a little bit too long and the show's already going long. You know, if you don't get it in 2 weeks, maybe I'll read the transcript to you in 2 weeks, but it's better for you to read it yourself. Read it again, right? And notice the context. That's all that matters. All of this impeachment bullshit, all of this leftist squawking in the mainstream media does not matter, right? The context, not the text of the conversation, the context of the conversation tells you everything you need to know. Now, speaking of context, all right, we've got a little bit more context here. So what else has gone on this week? Okay. Well, turns out, and I've got articles for this, but I'm not going to read them to you. I'm picking a few articles to read almost all of those articles to you, dear listener, for proof of the case that I'm making here, okay? But I've got articles about this. I'm just not going to read them, okay? If you don't believe me, go research them yourself. You can find it everywhere. But it turns out that on Wednesday of this past week, the New York Bar Association came out and demanded that William Barr recuse himself from the investigation into the origins of the Russia probe. Oh my God, imagine that. Now, why? Why are they doing this? Why are they doing this? Why are they demanding that Barr recuse himself from the Russia investigation? Well, the given reason is that, oh my God, because Barr's name comes up in the transcript with President Trump and President Zelensky's conversation. Therefore, he is a material witness. He needs to recuse himself immediately. Oh my God! Have you ever heard a bigger bunch of bullshit than that? Are you kidding me? That is the biggest bunch of shit I've ever heard. And they're even doubling down on it. They're saying that, oh my God, if William Barr doesn't recuse himself from this investigation right now, then he should be sanctioned. He should lose his law license, and he should be impeached in the Congress and lose the title of Attorney General of the United States. Oh my God. They're literally doing this. What a crock of shit. That is unbelievable. I mean, oh my God. What is the Attorney General supposed to do? If not exactly what General Barr seems to be doing right now, what is he supposed to be doing? Right? What does this sound like to you, dear listener? This sounds like desperation to me. That's what it sounds like. Absolute, mad, abject desperation. Let me take a sip of beer here real quick. Dear listener, before we get back into it, do you ever wonder why all this bullshit comes out of New York? You ever think about that? New York, what's your effing problem, man? Now listen, dear listeners in New York, I'm not talking about y'all. Y'all are good, right? I am talking about your city. However, why does all this crap come out of your city, right? Why is it always the New York Bar Association has demanded that William Barr recuse himself? Oh my God. Why is it always things like the Southern District of New York going after Michael Cohen and permanently destroying the hallowed, always practiced attorney-client privilege here in the United States between President Trump's former attorney, Michael Cohen, and himself? They raided his office and they took all the records. Why is it these crazy ideas like soda taxes coming out of New York, right? Why is it all these Green New Death laws always coming out of New York? New York, dear listeners, listen, I know that you're hopelessly outnumbered. You're welcome in the great state of Texas. I tell you what, we need to circle the wagons here in Texas right now for numerous obvious reasons, as you probably read in the press this week. So you're always welcome here, right? But man, I know that you must love New York by virtue of the fact that most of you are in New York and have been there for your entire lives. So man, mop your shit up, man. Grab a mop. Clean that disaster of a city you live in and fix it. But let's get back on topic here. So, let me ask a couple rhetorical questions here. With these demands to recuse, do you think, dear listener, that Jeff Sessions would recuse himself? I'm going to give you a minute to think about that. Do you think that Jeff Sessions, if he had started a probe, which he never did, he recused himself from Russiagate, Spygate. He completely recused himself. He bowed to leftist demands, right? Were he AG at this moment and the New York Bar Association just demand that he recuse himself from the investigation into the origins of the Russia investigation, do you think he would recuse himself? Listen, dear listener, I love Jeff Sessions. I really do. There were a lot of things he did quietly as Attorney General, like some great things about immigration enforcement, some great things about busting pedos' asses, right? I like Jeff Sessions a lot. I think he's an honorable Southern gentleman. I truly do, right? But he always bowed to leftist pressure. So my guess on this, and it's speculative, it doesn't matter, it's hypothetical, but my guess is after this demand to recuse himself, Jeff Sessions would recuse himself. Beauregard would recuse himself, okay? Now, I don't blame Jeff Sessions because you got to keep in mind, Jeff Sessions he's a senator. He's a lawyer, yes, but he's a senator. He is from a legislative background. He makes law, okay? William Barr is something quite different. William Barr is from the executive branch of the government. He does have some prosecutorial experience in the judiciary. He does, right? But really the bulk of his experience is in the DOJ. Hell, he's already been Attorney General before, right? He is executive branch trained, right? So I think that he is a little bit more qualified to handle these leftist squawking demands to recuse himself from this investigation. So I ask you, dear listener, do you think that William Barr is going to recuse himself from this investigation? Do you think he is? Did he ever recuse himself from the fake Russia hoax? No, he didn't. So I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to say that, you know what? I don't think, despite my disparaging remarks about William Barr and how slow this process has been and how long his investigation has been taking, I don't think he's going to recuse himself right now. But nonetheless, let it be said that this is yet another litmus test for William Barr. If he does recuse himself, he is on permanent cuck watch. Permanent cuck watch. But I don't think he will. I think that he has too much right now. Just in Joseph Mifsud's blackberries alone, I think he has too much. He sees too much of the rot going on here. There's no way he's going to recuse himself. Just a guess. But I think he has too much evidence to stop what he's doing now. And I think John Bull Durham knows too much as well. I think both of them know what is coming out in the many times delayed IG report, the IG Horowitz report into Hillary Clinton's emails, the Obama appointee, the leftist report. I think they know what's in there, right? I think they have their own evidence and their own data as well. So this train doesn't stop. And so, dear listener, do you see what's going on here with all this New York Bar Association doing their bullshit, right? Adam Schiff doing his impeachment bullshit. Do you see what's going on here? Dear listener, the Democrat deep state, corrupt as hell racehorse is racing and racing and racing and racing and trying to cross the finish line before William Barr and John Bull Durham. Can they do it? No, they can't. It's over. It's over. It's too late. It's too late. It's too late. They can't do it now. Now, why do I say this? Well, because a really interesting thing happened last night. And y'all watch Hannity, right? Y'all know it just as well as I do. And y'all know that this investigation into the origins of the Russia hoax, oh my God, has now changed. It's no longer an investigation into the Russia hoax. This is now a criminal investigation. This is now criminal. We ain't talking about origins of investigations. We're not talking about how money was misspent. We're not talking about political bias. We're talking about crimes now, dear listener, and that is a different ball of wax. What does it mean? What does it mean? Well, obviously, it marks a profound shift in things, okay? This is no longer an investigation about discovery, okay? This is no longer about finding out what the hell is going on. Okay. This is no longer looking into how the fake Russia hoax investigation began. What we know now that this has shifted into a criminal investigation is that evidence of crimes being committed has discovered. Okay. This is no longer the fake Russia witch hunt. This is no longer the investigation into the fake Russia witch hunt. This is now a criminal investigation. This is an investigation now of who committed the crimes. When did they commit those crimes? How many crimes were committed and how often? Who enabled those crimes? And most of all, and most importantly, dear listener, who directed that those crimes be committed? In other words, did somebody direct all of this lawlessness going into these crimes? This is no longer about the Russia investigation and how it began. Now the Russia investigation is a criminal operation. It is being investigated as a criminal operation. Who's being investigated? Who's being investigated? I mean, I kind of wonder if Robert Mueller is being investigated, right? His investigation was a sham. He didn't touch anything about how the fake Russia hoax began. Does this implicate him? Well, let's just take it this way, dear listener, okay? Let's just take it this way. What do we know? Okay. Well, okay. We know that John Bull Durham has subpoenaed John Brennan, former director of the CIA under Obama, to testify. How do we know this? How do we know this? Because just last week, this son of a bitch was on CNN, and I'm not going to play any CNN. Actually, I am going to play some CNN audio, but we'll get there in a minute. And James O'Keefe, by the way, CNN, you are so BTFO'd. You are so destroyed. You are so proven to be the liars and hoaxers and scammers that you are by one James O'Keefe at Project Veritas. You scum. You sons of bitches. It is laid bare for the American public to see, and it is factual. You scammers. You liars. You carnival barkers. You scum. You grifters. And that's why I'm not even going to play your audio anymore. I'm not even going to play your crap. So anyway, let's get back on topic. Okay. So John Brennan, the former CIA director under Barack Hussein Obama, and he's now a CNN commentator, he came out and he told the CNN audience last week that he had been subpoenaed. And then he further doubled down when he did. And he was like, oh, yeah, well, I've been subpoenaed in this sham investigation. It's act of desperation. It's no surprise to me that this despot of a president that we have right now would subpoena me, this impeccable character, former CIA president. He goes and he rags on everybody. He rags on John Bull Durham, rags on William Barr. I think he may have even said that William Barr should recuse himself. Rags on the president, most of all, calling him the president's henchman. Oh, my God. All right. Well, guess what, John Brennan, you son of a bitch? Surprise! You are now subpoenaed in a criminal investigation, son. That's what's going on right now. You are subpoenaed in a criminal investigation. I wonder whose crimes are being committed or being investigated here, John Brennan. I wonder who's being investigated. I mean, you're one of the last ones in, John Brennan. Damn, this sucks for you because here's how it goes, dear listener. Okay, you get the low-hanging fruit first, right? You get the low-level players, right? You get as much information and evidence as you can in the beginning, and you start moving up the chain. And you go up to the bigger fish. And then you go up to the bigger fish. You go up to the bigger fish. Were I John Brennan right now, dear listener, I would be shitting bricks. I would be wondering, oh my God, why have they not talked to me before this became a criminal investigation? Oh shit, am I being investigated as a criminal? Panic, dear listener. Absolute panic is what you see going on right now, right? All at the hands of William Barr and John Bull Durham. You know, John Brennan, I would resign from CNN right now and I would shut the F up. I would not say another damn word in public right now, were I you. But you are so desperate that you can't stop. You can't stop. You've got to try to get that deep state horse across the line before William Barr and John Bull Durham get there. And guess what, you son of a bitch? You can't do it. It's too late. You can't do it. You can't do it. But, you know, I think you're a fairly smart guy. You got a little bit of common sense. I would start shutting up right about now, John Brennan. Were I you? Well, all right. Let me take a sip of beer here real quick. All right. Well, what else do we know? Well. We happen to also know that former director of national intelligence under Barack Hussein Obama, James Clapper, has also been subpoenaed in this now criminal investigation. Surprise, James Clapper. Welcome to your subpoena to a criminal investigation. You son of a bitch. John Bull Durham did it. And this absolute dumbass, James Clapper, dear listener, this absolute liar, this absolute scum, he comes on Anderson Cooper's show about a week and a half ago, and he admits it. He admits everything. Listen, I don't want to laugh. I don't want to laugh, okay? Unfortunately, dear listener, I have to play Anderson Cooper's show for you from CNN, okay? But I'm not playing the original, dear listener. I'm going to play the remix here, okay? I mean, the remix, you know, just like every great trance track, the remix is usually just a little bit better than the original. So I'm going to play the remix for you, right? I'm playing the Real Clear Politics and the Real Clear Investigations remix of this, home of Paul Sperry, Ian Schwartz, too many other great journalists to name. I'm going to play their remix of the Anderson Cooper interview with James Clapper for you right now. Just take a listen to this.
The 2017 assessment.
Get ready to shake your ass to this, by the way, dear listener. Speaking of, I'm about to drop a bomb on you. Get ready to dance.
The president says he now agrees with. That was done while you and then CIA Director John Brennan were still in office. So how can we reconcile the president attacking you, but apparently after a very long time, finally allegedly saying he allegedly agrees with the product of the intelligence community that you yourself oversaw?
Yeah, well, this is as we've come to know the president, he's not a stalwart for consistency or coherence.
Oh, yeah, rag on President Trump.
It's very hard to explain.
Yeah, take your digs.
That.
Take your digs.
One point I'd like to make, Anderson, I don't think has come up very much before, and I'm alluding now to the president's criticism of President Obama for all that he did or didn't do.
Let me just stop that. Let me give it in the drum and bass tradition of playing tracks. Let me give this a rewind here real quick. Let me just stop. Let me let the MC bark here for just a little bit. The master of ceremonies is going to tell you how great this track is coming in. Get ready for it, dear listener. Get ready to shake your ass. Get ready to dance a little bit. All right, I'm going to make you wait for it just a little bit. Wait for it. All right, you waited enough. Here it goes.
Before he left office with respect to the Russian meddling. If it weren't for President Obama, we might not have done the intelligence community assessment that we did that set off a whole sequence of events which are unfolding today, notably Special Counsel Mueller's investigation.
All right, in the drum and bass tradition, I did that twice, tradition. Let me give a rewind right here, dear listener. Let's play that one more again. Let's take a listen to this one more again.
Criticism of President Obama for all that he did or didn't do before he left office with respect to the Russian meddling. If it weren't for President Obama, we might not have done the intelligence community assessment that we did that set off a whole sequence of events which are unfolding today, notably Special Counsel Mueller's investigation. President Obama is responsible for that, and it was he who tasked us to do that intelligence community assessment in the first place. I think that's an important point when it comes to critiquing President Obama.
You know, the president...
You damn right it's an important point, you absolute moron, you dumbass. You damn right that's an important point. Do you get what it is right there, dear listener? James Clapper just admitted that Obama himself instigated Spygate. What have I always told you? What if Luke and I always told you in these hallowed halls on this trail right here that we share week after week?
Everyone live from Detroit. The president met today.
Oops, sorry about that. That was Don Lemon. My bad. Sorry about that. I've always said that this is going to go straight back to the doorstep of Barack Hussein Obama. And boy, was it none other than James Clapper himself who sold out the president. I laugh every time I listen to it. Oh my God. All right. So some people are going to be tempted to see this and be like, oh, he's just using this as defense. No, he was doing this because the president told him to do it. Yeah, he was doing it because the president told him to do it. You stupid ass leftists. Yeah, that's exactly why. That's exactly why he was doing it. But no. There is a 4D read on this that goes this way right here, dear listener. This is what it is. James Clapper just threw Obama under the bus. Okay, that wasn't him defending himself about, oh God, the president told us to do it. And the leftists take this talking point. Yeah, you see, the president told him to start Spygate. And Anderson Cooper himself was even like, oh my God, let me get to another question as quick as I possibly can. No. This was James Clapper throwing the president under the bus. Dear listener, they're effed. They are absolutely effed. All of them. We've already heard Clapper, Brennan, Comey, Sally Yates, Susan Rice, Obama, Donna Brazile, too many others to name, okay? There are just too many to name here. We've named them already before, and you know exactly who they are. We've heard them all contradict each other so many times, point the finger at each other so many times. Oh, it wasn't my idea to investigate the Trump campaign. It was John Brennan's. It wasn't me. I didn't do nothing. Oh, dear listener, this is the gloriousest shit ever. I guarantee you, dear listener, we're going to see a lot more of this. This is now a criminal investigation. Watch these rats flee the ship. Watch them all turn on each other. Hell, James Clapper just sold out Obama, the Messiah himself. Expect much, much, much more of this, dear listener, now that this is a criminal investigation, okay? I mean, the crazy thing to me is that the Democrats, they have half the country brainwashed into believing this bullshit, that the whole Russia hoax, with the Russia fake hoax was true, that Ukraine gate is true, that the Bidens didn't commit any crimes in Ukraine, that President Trump was committing treason by committing a quid pro quo by demanding that Ukraine dig up political dirt in exchange for military funding on one of its political enemies. Oh my God. They're all convinced of this, but there is only one problem with that, dear listener, and this is a big problem for the left. You can't just say it on CNN anymore, right? You can't just say it on MSNBC anymore. You can't say it on NBC anymore. You can't say this bullshit in a special counsel investigation anymore. Now you got to say it, and you got to prove it in a criminal investigation. Oh my God. Oh, it's so beautiful. Oh, man, the joke is on you, leftists. The joke has always been on you, you scum. Listen, I don't mean that. Listen, I've got a lot of dear friends of mine who are leftists, right? Okay? Right? But like, even my dear friends, right? And listen, I love y'all. I truly do, right? But politically, we're not taking you back this time, okay? You have irredeemed yourselves permanently. After all of this bullshit you've put us through, decades, 50 years of calling us racist, of calling us sexist, of calling us homophobes, those of us who love our country, those of us God-loving, Trump-loving patriots, years of trampling on our civil rights, squashing our voice, years of driving us from the public square, years of taunting us to our face with your meaningless court victories, your culture wars, your leftist shit-lib media. We've had it with you. And there's no reconciliation politically this time. There's none. Not until you goddamn leftists, at the very least, admit your lies and malfeasance. Just admit it. Admit your domination of the mainstream media and social media. Admit it. Admit to your election rigging. Admit to driving us out of the public space by shaming us, calling us racist. Even out of private restaurants where we just go to try to enjoy a quiet meal with our loved ones. The way that you ran out Sarah Huckabee Sanders, Ted Cruz. Admit that you have tried to steal our property from us for yourselves, for your pets, your victims, your plantation class that you keep there to enable you to win the vote. Admit that you're stealing from us. Admit that you have weaponized the political process against all of us. Admit it. Until you admit that you hate our country, that you've been trying to destroy our country by unfettered, illegal, and legal immigration into our country of nobody but minds like your own that are leftists that will come in and corrupt our political process and isolate us from the republic for which our fathers fought and died. Until you admit it, we don't have a goddamn thing for you, leftists. We don't have a damn thing for you. And not only just admit it, you know something, leftists? You apologize. No, you don't apologize. You grovel. You grovel. And you beg our forgiveness for this bullshit that you have pulled off since 1920. You beg. Not just apologize, you grovel. And then, maybe then, we'll be willing to take you back as our honored countrymen, but not until then. Because you have done this. Not us. Not President Trump. Not William Barr. Not John Bull Durham. You did this. And you've worked on this for 100 years. This project to usurp our republic. And you know it. You know it. And if you don't know it and you're still a leftist, well, you're just goddamn stupid. You're just one of the pawns on their chessboard. And that's all you are. And let me say this also. Leftists. If you think you're going to destroy this great country when Trump wins again in 2020, which he's going to do, you think that you're going to riot in the streets. You think you're going to start Civil War 2.0. Oh my God. We're going to get active now. We're going to demonstrate in the streets just like your leaders, your sons of bitches like Maxine Waters and Adam Schiff tell you to do, to go riot in the streets like George Soros tells you to do. You think you're going to do it this time? Let me tell you something. We've got the guns, okay? And I can prove that. We've got the ammo, and I can prove that. Let me tell you something else. We've got the training, and I can prove that. It's not only that, we've got the culture, and I can prove that too, because we've been shooting since we were 5 years old, 7 years old. You lily-livered scumbags have not done anything. You've not done the work, and you hate our country, and it's too late for you now. It's too late for you, so don't go there. Don't do it, because we will destroy you. We will physically destroy you. And dear listener, even our politicians are getting it now, right? It seemed like they were all going to cuck out on President Trump, and oh my God, I'm going to have to stay open-minded until this impeachment facts come out. No. Congressman Matt Gaetz led a riot into Adam Schiff's skiff, where he's holding private inquisition meetings about how to impeach President Trump. This fishing operation that I've already told you about, they went in there and they occupied that space. And just to trigger them as hard as possible, they ordered Chick-fil-A for lunch just to trigger them a little bit more. Our politicians are starting to get it. And so what this means, dear listener, is no matter what the left tries now, outside of abject terrorism, we win. No matter what they try now, we win. That's why Luke and I say in these hallowed halls, you're going to impeach the president? Do it. Do it. I dare you. I double dog dare you. Do it. You know why, dear listener? Because we win. They lose. Why? Because they're losers. That's why. All of them. This 51, 49% of our country, whatever they are, they're losers. They're not our compatriots. We are winners. And we see the whole thing falling apart right now, as I've just detailed for you. And I'm not even done yet. I'm not even halfway done yet. So, oh my God, listen to Russ. He's trying to start a civil war. He's trying to get us in a civil war. No, I'm not. I didn't do this. President Trump didn't do this. You didn't do this, dear listener. I'm trying to stop this right now. Listen, what I just did, I told the left exactly what you can do to back up off this. I gave you the prescription for how to not destroy our country. I'm not trying to destroy our country. I'm trying to save it. I'm totally telling you exactly what you have to do. If you really love the United States of America, that's what you do. You back off, you admit it, and you apologize. And if you're not willing to do that, you created that. We didn't create it. You did. I don't want a civil war, dear listener. You don't want a civil war. Nobody wants a civil war, right? They do. They want the civil war. They want to destroy America. They always have. They've been trying to do it since 1920, as Luke and I have described to you in our socialism takedown and all of these other deep dives that we've done and just our regular God tier commentary. They're trying to destroy it. I'm trying to save it. Don't blame it on me. Don't blame it on President Trump. It's you. You cucks. You scum. It's you. Get your head right and learn how to love this country again and atone. And if not, we don't have any time for you. We don't have any time for you. Now, I'm still on the topic of William Barr and Sidney Powell and all this kind of stuff, but I do have this article pulled up. It's a Daily Caller piece. It dropped 2 days ago on the 23rd. The title is, Poll, almost 70% of Americans believe civil war is imminent. I'm going to take it from the lead. It goes thus. The political discourse, or lack of it, has apparently become so caustic in the United States that 67% of those surveyed in a poll released Wednesday believe another civil war is imminent. Again, who wants it? We don't want it. They do. The left does. Let me pick it back up at paragraph 2. The poll was conducted by Georgetown University's Institute of Politics and Public Service as part of their annual Battleground Poll Civility Survey, and according to the Institute's executive director, the results could indicate that the 2020 election could be as divisive and explosive as the 1860 election that precipitated the Civil War of 1861 to 1865. Quote, the majority of Americans believe that we are 2/3 of the way to being on the edge of a civil war. That, to me, is a very pessimistic place, Mo Elithi told the Washington Examiner. The survey showed that voters are not just dissatisfied with politics, they are angry. While Democratic dislike of President Donald Trump is hardening, Republicans show a similar dislike of the crop of leftist Democrat candidates vying for their party's presidential nomination. Although Trump's approval rating has never been extraordinary, in September it was higher than predecessor President Barack Obama's numbers were at the same stage in his first term. Olathe told the Examiner that the poll, quote, paints a scenario, a picture, a highly negative campaign that will continue to exacerbate the incivility in our public discourse, end quote. The survey revealed a strange dichotomy in the current American political psyche. While 87% of respondents said that they are repelled by the lack of civility in the political sphere, 84% said they are, quote, tired of leaders compromising my values and ideals. Yeah, imagine that. You better listen to that, Swamp. You better listen to that quote really big time. 84% disapprove of you. I'm not going to read any more of it. You get the point, dear listener. I'm reporting the facts here. Why did I go off on that little ditty about how the left wants to begin a civil war and destroy our country? It's not me. It's Georgetown University. It's their poll. They measured it, right? It's just data I'm talking about here, right? I just gave the prescription for how to stop it. And that is the left, you admit it, and you apologize, and you get back on board with what America is, or let's do it. Let's do it. It's not our choice. It's yours. It's yours. Now, let's get back on the topic here. The topic is William Barr, John Bull Durham, and Sidney Powell. I've got a Breitbart piece here, dropped just today. The title of it is Michael Flynn's lawyers claim Lisa Page altered FBI interview record to frame him. I'm going to take it from the lead. It goes thus. Lawyers for former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn reportedly filed a motion on Thursday in which they allege that the Department of Justice manipulated a document to frame their client and is withholding exculpatory evidence. The apparent, quote, sealed filing dated October 24th, 2019 was posted to social media on Thursday evening. The filing by Flynn's new legal team, which took over the case several weeks ago, argues that the FBI conducted an ambush interview of Flynn in the White House. We've already reported about that too, not to discover any evidence of criminal activity, but to coax him into making false statements. When Flynn's new lawyer, Sidney Powell, first made those allegations in September, prosecutors replied that she was indulging in, quote, conspiracy theories, oh my God, and noted his client had already pleaded guilty to the crime of lying to the FBI in 2017. Flynn has been awaiting sentencing since then and has even told sentencing judge in 2018 that he would not claim FBI misconduct despite growing evidence that they had departed from normal practices in interviewing him and had only completed their 302, the report of their meeting, after he had already been forced to resign from his position in the administration over the allegations. Okay? That's an important factoid. We already know this. We already know it, but it's important. The new defense filing alleges that the government is refusing to turn over a mountain of potentially exculpatory evidence, some of which has begun to emerge in the media, either through leaks or through ongoing inquiries into the origins of the probe into alleged Russia collusion with the Trump campaign, later found not to exist. That evidence, Flynn's legal team alleges, includes an apparent admission from former FBI lawyer Lisa Page, who resigned after being discovered having an affair with agent Peter Strzok, with whom she shared anti-Trump texts, that she edited the 302. In other words, she changed the original 302. Something that she allegedly told FBI investigators she did not recall, the filing states. The edits the filing alleges were substantive. They included a claim that Flynn said he did not discuss any sanctions with the Russian ambassador. Flynn's lawyers allege he merely told the FBI he did not recall, and that the claim he said otherwise was added only after a transcript of his discussion with the ambassador had been leaked to the media. In a footnote, the filing adds that former FBI General Counsel James Baker, quote, let me put it this way. In Sidney Powell's footnote, Sidney Powell's filing adds that FBI General Counsel James Baker, quote, is believed to be the person who illegally leaked the transcript of Mr. Flynn's call to David Ignatius at the Washington Post, end quote. It also alleges that former National Intelligence Director James Clapper told David Ignatius to, quote, take the kill shot on Flynn. The filing emerged hours after reports that the Department of Justice had shifted its investigation on the origins of the Russia probe to become a criminal investigation under the supervision of prosecutor John Bull Durham. Flynn was subject to surveillance, allegedly in response to claims that he might have violated the Logan Act, an archaic and rarely enforced law barring private citizens from diplomacy, during the President-elect Donald Trump's transition to office. Flynn's name was then unmasked in the transcript of his telephone conversation with then Russian Ambassador Sergei Kislyak, which then was leaked to the media illegally. Flynn's subsequent prosecution for lying to the FBI was key to the Russia collusion theory, later to have been found to have no substance at all after a lengthy conversation by special counsel after a lengthy investigation by special counsel Robert Mueller that took nearly 2 years to complete. Dang. That was a Joel Pollack piece at Breitbart. Got another one right here. The chutzpah. Gerald Nadler, Adam Schiff accused Trump of politicizing the DOJ. This dropped just yesterday. You know what? I'm going to skip this piece. No. Let's read it. Look, you know what? Let me check our time here, dear listener. Oh, dang. We're already up near 2 hours. Oh, my goodness. All right. Yeah, we're going to skip that piece because we got a couple other things that we got to read here. All right. Now, I've got a Luke Rosiak piece here. Okay. It's on the Caller. It dropped just today. The title of the piece is Michael Flynn attorney demands charges be dismissed, quote, for outrageous government misconduct. It's got 3 bullets. I'm going to read them in order. Bullet point number 1. Attorney Sidney Powell on Thursday asked a federal court to hold prosecutors in contempt for their conduct in the case against former Trump National Security Advisor Michael Flynn. Bullet point number 2. She said the government withheld evidence of misconduct in the FBI, including the infamous Peter Strzok Lisa Page text, until 1 day after he pleaded guilty in December 2017, and that contemporaneous notes from Flynn's interview with Strzok contradict Strzok's final report. Dang. Powell wrote that Pentagon official James Baker may be behind the illegal leak to the Washington Post of a transcript of a call with a Russian ambassador, with James Clapper allegedly telling David Ignatius to take a kill shot. I'm going to take it from the lead after the bullets. They go thus. God tier, Luke Rosiak. God tier. Here we go. Former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn's attorney said in a court filing Thursday that the case against her client should be dismissed, quote, for outrageous government misconduct, and that the court should, quote, issue an order to show cause why the prosecutors should not be held in contempt, end quote. Attorney Sidney Powell wrote that FBI agent Peter Strzok changed his interview notes, the 302s, to purport that Flynn said things he did not, that a Pentagon official may have leaked evidence to the press with the involvement of former Director of National Security Intelligence James Clapper, and that Department of Justice prosecutors have refused to turn over exculpatory evidence to the defense. Flynn served as Donald Trump's first national security advisor. 4 days after Trump's inauguration on January 24th of 2017, Strzok met with Flynn in what Flynn viewed as a meeting of 2 colleagues, but which Strzok was using as part of a criminal probe against him, the filing said. On December 1st, 2017, Flynn pleaded guilty to making false statements regarding his conversations with Russia's ambassador, Sergei Kislyak, about 1 year later after the inauguration. The filing says that the government sat on explosive evidence about Strzok, former FBI lawyer Lisa Page, and others in the Bureau until the day after Flynn pleaded guilty. Quote, the day after Mr. Flynn's plea, the press exploded with the news of Strzok and Page's prolific text messages, their affair, and their malice toward President Trump, Powell's filing says. Quote, the Inspector General issued a rare statement that he was investigating the entire matter. Bruce Orr, this is a quote from Sidney Powell. Bruce Orr, the 4th highest ranking member of the DOJ, was demoted. The filing continues. Quote, this is very important. Judge Contreras who accepted Mr. Flynn's plea only days before, was suddenly and inexplicably recused, only for it to be disclosed much later that he was a topic of conversation in the Strzok page text because he was a good friend of Agent Strzok. No. That's not what those texts said. The Strzok page text? No. They said that they needed to set up a dinner party for Judge Contreras to go out and wine and dine him. That's what the text said. And Sidney Powell knows this. Don't get me wrong. Sidney Powell knows it, right? I just want you to know it, dear listener, and I want you to think about it. They were whining and dining. The judge in the Flynn case, oh my God. Peter Strzok and Lisa Page were doing this. They were whining and dining the judge in Michael Flynn's trial with his corrupt previous attorneys who turned evidence against his business partner at the Flynn lobbying group. Oh my God. Let me continue. Not only did prosecutor Brandon Van Grack not disclose a single text message before Mr. Flynn agreed to plead guilty, but special counsel apparently managed to control the press on the issue until the plea was entered on December 1st of 2017 in Judge Contreras' court, Powell wrote. It defies credulity to suggest that it was only unlucky for Mr. Flynn that the story broke the very next day. All right, now we're into the article, Rosiak's article. Here we go back. The basis for the false statements charge comes from an interview that was not only audio recorded, even though anyone with a cell phone could have easily recorded it, Powell wrote. Strzok did not take any written notes during the interview with Flynn, while a junior agent did, Powell wrote. Strzok later wrote lengthy notes after the fact. Eventually, Strzok summarized the interview in a 302, the official FBI form in which an agent memorializes an interview, which became the evidence for false statements. Back to Sidney Powell. Quote, yet their own notes contradict the 302 and fail to support it all in other ways, Powell wrote. Quote, back to Powell. Notes by both agents state that Mr. Flynn does not remember making 4 to 5 calls to Ambassador Kislyak from the Dominican Republic where he was on vacation, but that if he did so, it was because phone service was poor and he kept getting dropped. The final 302 states the opposite. Flynn remembered making 4 to 5 calls that day about the issue, but that the Dominican Republic was a difficult place to make a call as he kept having connectivity issues. Oh my God. Sidney Powell says this dramatically demonstrates the wrong-headedness of allowing a 302 to create a federal felony. 2 out of 4 of the alleged false statements in the statement of offense are based on what the agents claim Mr. Flynn said or did not say about the response of the Russian ambassador on 2 separate issues. The notes provide no support for a question or an answer about the Russian ambassador's response either to the UN vote or to the sanctions from Obama. Now let's talk about what these sanctions are. Why is all of this bearing down on General Flynn right now? What's going on with this? Okay, well, I'll tell you what it is. General Flynn had just been appointed to President-elect Trump's national security advisor. Okay, he was going to be in the Trump campaign. What is this all about? General Flynn was also in the Obama campaign. I believe he was the DNI. I think he was. No, he wasn't DNI. That was James Clapper. Anyway, I can't remember what his role was, but Michael Flynn served in the Obama administration as well, but a rift emerged, okay? And that is this. Michael Flynn opposed the Iran deal. Basically, the deal where we paid them $150 billion so that they could enrich uranium and create nuclear weapons. Michael Flynn opposed that deal. Then he ends up getting mixed up in Trump's administration to become the national security advisor. Well, that means that Obama has to destroy him. He has to take him down. And he starts running Peter Strzok at him. He starts running Lisa Page at him. They start running Joseph Mifsud. They start running everybody all over the place at the Trump campaign. And we already know, and you heard that stupid son of a bitch, James Clapper himself, just admit that President Obama directed all of it. But that's what this is all about regarding General Flynn. They had to take him out because he was going to help Trump nullify the Iran deal. Oh my God, that's going to end up getting us in war with Iran. Oh my God. Well, look at this. We've got mass peace in Syria right now, despite what John Kerry and Obama wanted in Syria. They wanted us to go to war in Syria. They wanted us to bomb Syria, right? Trump pulls out. Washington, D.C. raises hell. What do we have now? We've got peace in Syria. We've got a ceasefire in Syria. Why is there not credible reason to think that Trump knows what he's doing in Iran as well? These scumbags, dear listener, admit it, leftists, admit it. Admit how corrupt you are, how you've destroyed our republic and our government. Admit it, and maybe we'll take you back, but not one goddamn moment before then. Not one moment, and then you grovel, and maybe we will have you as countrymen again. Even how Strzok informed Flynn about the, quote, nature of the interview was misleading, Powell wrote. Flynn was told investigators were seeking to learn, quote, the nature of any links between any individuals associated with the campaign in Russia, but he, quote, asked no question related to the election interference or coordination between the campaign and Russia. Instead, he asked what Flynn had discussed with the Russian ambassador on the issue of sanctions and a United Nations vote. These sanctions, once again, dear listener, I didn't make this point a moment ago. What the sanctions were, on December 29th of 2016, Obama expelled all Russian diplomats from Washington, D.C. You remember that? It was supposedly we just found out that the Russians, they hacked our election. Oh my God, even though I said in October that there's no way that our election could ever be hacked. There is no way that they could ever get a hold of our elections. Well, now we found out that the Russians did indeed hack our elections, and that's the only reason that Donald Trump got elected. So these Russian diplomats have to be expelled from the capital city immediately. That's what Obama did, right? What Michael Flynn was trying to do was call the Russians and the Russian ambassador, Sergei Kislyak, and be like, okay, yo, bro, don't nuke us. Everything's cool. Things are about to turn over. We're going to resume diplomacy as soon as this son of a bitch usurper Obama is out of office, who right then was orchestrating Spygate. Right then, dear listener, as soon as he's gone, we're going to get back on an even keel again. Everything's going to be great again. We're going to return to normalcy again, right? That's what that conversation was about. The sanctions they're talking about against Russia right now are Obama's sanctions against Russia when he threw out the Russian ambassadors from Washington, D.C. Okay? Back to Sidney Powell. Quote, the government is suppressing evidence of notes, reports, or recordings of the significant meeting the upper echelon of the FBI held to orchestrate the agent's ambush of Mr. Flynn so as to keep him relaxed, Powell wrote. They purposely did not tell him they were investigating him and strategized at length to avoid raising any concerns. Flynn was unguarded and clearly saw the FBI agents as allies. Since January 17, the government knew but still has not disclosed the full statements and notes that showed Deputy Attorney General Sally Yates and said the interview of Mr. Flynn was, quote, problematic, and she was unclear why the FBI was investigating or interviewing Mr. Flynn at all. Neither Mr. Flynn nor his former counsel had any of these documents or knowledge of the plethora of information discussed above when Mr. Flynn entered his plea. On January 10th, 2017, BuzzFeed, that's about right. BuzzFeed published the dossier compiled by ex-British spy Christopher Steele, which alleged connections between Trump and Russia. We're not going to read the rest of that paragraph, Luke Rosiak. Respectfully, Luke Rosiak, we know. But it's good color. It's good color commentary. Back to Sidney Powell. We're discussing whether now that this is out, we can use it as a pretext. Or no. This is Peter Strzok. I'm sorry. We're discussing now that this is out, whether we can use it as a pretext to go interview some people. Strzok texted. Powell wrote in our filing, in the next 2 weeks, there were many meetings between Strzok and McCabe to discuss whether to interview National Security Advisor Michael Flynn, and if so, what interview strategies to use. This was 2 weeks before the pretextual interview of Michael Flynn, and it eviscerates the credibility of Christopher Steele, whose false and unverified assertions mentioned Mr. Flynn were used by the FBI to obtain illegal FISA warrants that likely reached the communications of Mr. Flynn. Dang. We're just going to stop it right there, dear listener. We're just going to stop it right there. Okay. We've got another piece to read here as well. Oh, no, we already read that piece. Okay, yeah, we already read that piece. It's the Margot Cleveland piece. Okay, thank God we already read it because the show is getting long. I thank you for your indulgence, dear listener, but this information is very important. I'm sorry it's going long. I'm going to throw out the Epstein topic for tonight. We've got one more topic we got to cover after this, but I can hit it and quit it pretty quick. But we got to summarize what it is that we just learned. Okay. Do you see the numerous cross-links between Sidney Powell's defense of Michael Flynn and what it is that we're learning about the John Bull Durham and William Barr investigation? Do you see what's going on here? Like Margot Cleveland argued, how in the hell did Sidney Powell know so quickly that they got the BlackBerries from Joseph Mifsud? She must have a well-placed source somewhere in the DOJ. Wouldn't surprise me. She was a prosecutor in both Virginia, I think in the Eastern District of Virginia, and also in Texas. Wouldn't surprise me. She was a federal prosecutor. She probably knows a bunch of people in the DOJ. Now, whether or not William Barr or John Bull Durham is leaking this information to Sidney Powell, I would doubt that. There's too much leaking going on in the administration, and it's too risky to do right now. But they told her, we cannot confirm or verify that we have those BlackBerries, but if we do have those BlackBerries, then if we find any information on those BlackBerries that is contained in those BlackBerries, then we will let you have that information from these BlackBerries that we have, but we don't have. And we will let you know if there is anything relevant to your case from these BlackBerries. And then we will send this information to you from the BlackBerries, says William Barr to Sidney Powell. Do you see this intersection? Do you see what's going on here? Okay. Listen, I might have been wrong about William Barr, but I have never been wrong about Sidney Powell. I believe her, and I believe in her. I know what she does. I know that she gets what she wants, and I know she never says anything that she cannot prove in a court of law. Okay? Do you understand how many common themes have emerged here in the investigation of William Barr that is now a criminal investigation and the defense of Michael Flynn? Okay? Now, let's say that I was right about 6 weeks ago when I condemned the character of William Barr and the intent of William Barr. Let's say that I was right back then. Okay. Well, he can't get away with it now. He can't cover it up now because Sidney Powell just released these documents in Emmett Sullivan's court yesterday where she spells out everything that William Barr and John Bull Durham have, the few things that we know about their investigation. She spelled it out. They're in common interest. And this information cannot be covered up now because Sidney Powell is not going to allow that information to be covered up. She's going to get what she wants. She is going to exonerate Michael Flynn. But it's not just that she's doing, dear listener. No. When I described Sidney Powell to you way back about an hour and a half ago, do you remember what I told you about her? She knows the DOJ. She knows the deep state players. She knows the corruption. She knows how the business is done there. Dear listener, she is not only defending Michael Flynn right here. She is busting the DOJ. She is throwing open all of the facts about Spygate. Is it because of Sidney Powell that this has now become a criminal investigation? I mean, seriously. Oh shit, Sidney Powell knows too much now. We better take this criminal, John Bull Durham, or man, if we don't do it, then she's going to do it. You see what I'm saying, dear listener? You see what I'm saying? They've all always been intimately involved, but Sidney Powell now knows too much, and she's not going to let it go. She's written books about this corruption. She knows exactly what she's doing. And now she is doing the work like the God-tier Tom Fitton at Judicial Watch. She's getting the information from the government. She's making the government admit it. It is glorious to behold, dear listener. So, the bottom line is this. I think I prejudged William Barr. I think I did. I may be flat out wrong. And if I'm wrong, dear listener, I always admit it. I have no problem with it. I would rather admit and confess the truth and get the truth out than try to prove myself I'm right, right? Being right doesn't matter. Telling the truth matters. Being right matters not at all, right? I may have been wrong. Okay. But if I was right and William Barr is slow rolling these investigations, Sidney Powell's not going to let it happen. She's not going to let it happen. Those pieces I just read to you from the Caller and the Federalist just proved it. And Breitbart, to be fair, and Breitbart. Dang, what an exciting time, dear listener. Oh, man. We've ridden so hard. We've watched our president derided, abused by the media, by the mainstream media and the deep state, which are one and the same, and the Democrat Party, which are all deep state, Democrat Party, mainstream media, all one and the same. They are all fellow travelers on their trail, just like we are fellow travelers on this trail right here, dear listener. We've watched them slander our president, watched them accuse our president, watched them call us racist constantly, right? And it is all falling apart. And dear listener, I think it may just be because of William Barr that this is happening. Meanwhile, in white pilling news, our president gives rally after rally, press conference after press conference, right? Shouts down leftists every now and then at these press conferences, which is great. Right? And he's just sitting here poolside. No, I don't know anything that's going on. I don't know what's going on with any of this stuff. I'm trying to stay out of it. I'm just letting the process work itself out. But I think you're going to be surprised, fellow American, when you find out what went on with all of this. I think you're going to be surprised, but I don't know that anything that's going on, but I think you're going to be surprised. Of course, the president knows what's going on. We know what's going on. So, of course, the president knows what's going on. But you know what? He's just kicking it poolside, not having anything to do with it. And Mr. President, my highest compliments. That is exactly where you need to be right now. Let the process work out, Mr. President. We here on this trail have your back. Let us do the work now. We've got it. We've got it. You rest a little bit. You've got a campaign coming up. You've got an election to win. We've got it from here, Mr. President. All right, dear listener, let's shift gears a little bit. We've been running at a gallop for 2 straight hours, man. Our horses are tired. Let's slow down to a canter here a little bit, just a little bit, and I'm going to close out the show. Thank you so much for riding along this long. It's been a long advanced scout mission for Hardly Strictly Politics. It's been a really long one, right? And so thank you for riding along with me. So let's slow down to a canter. We're going to slow down to a trot here in just a minute, but for right now, let's canter, okay? We're going to canter through a couple of facts about this Jeffrey Epstein thing that I just can't let go, okay? Now, there has been a lot going on with the Jeffrey Epstein case, but in the interest of expediency of time, we're just going to drop a couple facts about this, okay? Now, y'all know his madam, Ghislaine Maxwell, right? Well, you know how she disappeared, right? She disappeared just like Joseph Mifsud. After William Barr and John Bull Durham got his Blackberries, that son of a bitch has disappeared off the face of the earth. We knew exactly where he was in Italy there for a minute. Now he gone. Just like Ghislaine Maxwell, okay? Well, Ghislaine Maxwell has been found, dear listener. She's in Brazil. She and fashion model scout Jean-Luc Brunel are both in Brazil. They've been cooling their heels there. We know this to be an objective fact. They fled the United States and France, respectively, and are now in Brazil, okay? So that's a fact. Okay, they may have fled Brazil by now because, I mean, man, the world is waking up to their malfeasance and their crimes. And there have been some developments in the French investigation into Jeffrey Epstein to this effect. We're going to leave it there for now. But I will say, dear listener, another thing that has happened, and I'm not going to read any sources or talk that much about it, but there was a massive pedophile bust on the dark web 2 weeks ago where hundreds, if not thousands of people went downtown. They were under secret indictment. Then those indictments came out. I have all of their names of everybody who has been sentenced and indicted thus far, right? Except for those who are covered up. We're not going to read those names now, but I'm dying to do it, dear listener. I'm dying to do it. Maybe we'll swap these tales around the campfire tonight. Once we sit down and chill out, set up base camp, and get ready for Hardly Strictly number 58. Maybe I'll tell you the names then. If not tonight around the campfire, then I'm going to do it on a future show. You believe that because I'm dying to read the names. You need to hear them, okay? But this massive pedophile ring that was busted was central. They had terabytes of child porn on this website available for download. There were lots of Border Patrol, Homeland Security, all kinds of officials in the United States government who went down when this pedophile ring got busted. And so, William Barr, my compliments for doing the work in Jeff Sessions' stead, for continuing the work that he began. And so, this noose, dear listener, is getting very tight around those pedophiles and those who abuse our children, including Jean-Luc Brunel and Ghislaine Maxwell. You believe that? All right. We're going to leave that point right there. We'll take it up some other time. There's one thing that I got to talk about here real quick, and I'm going to talk about it on every show that we have before this election coming up, and I'm talking specifically to Texans. We got a lot of Texans on this trail, so Texans, did you know that there was an election coming up on November 5th? Yeah, there is. There's an election. Yeah, I was surprised to find that out too. It's about ballot initiatives for state law, okay? And the thing that I want to explain to you is there is this particularly pernicious plank that we are going to vote upon, and all of you within hearing distance in the great state of Texas of my dulcet tones, you have to go out and vote on November 5th, and you have to get everybody you know to go out and vote on November 5th, because the leftists that are trying to infiltrate our state government and turn us purple, if not all the way blue, are trying to pull a scam on us, dear listener. And the scam goes like this. They are trying to trick us into voting for a state income tax. And that's a fact. Okay? One of the initiatives, let me get my Fogels here real quick. Where are my Fogels? Oh, here are my Fogels. All right. I got my glasses on. One of these propositions, it's proposition number 4, dear listener. Okay. The proposition reads, the constitutional amendment prohibiting the imposition of an individual income tax, including a tax on individuals' share of partnership and unincorporated associated income. All right. And it's written also in Spanish. Okay. So you're voting for that amendment, or you're voting against that proposition, not amendment, but proposition. Okay. So let me read this in context. Okay. It goes like this. The for proposition. I am in favor of the constitutional amendment prohibiting the imposition of an individual income tax, including a tax on an individual's share of partnership and unincorporated association income. Okay? Let me read the negative. Okay? I am against the constitutional amendment prohibiting the imposition of an individual income tax, including a tax on an individual's share of partnership and unincorporated association income. This is absolutely freaking disgusting. Okay. Dear listener, do you see what's going on here? Your state government is trying to trick you into voting for a state income tax. Because you sit here on the ballot and you read Proposition 4, state income tax. Hell no. Hell no. No. Well, what you are saying, if you vote no, because of the wording of the proposition by these leftists that are infiltrating our state government, you are voting no against a proposition which prohibits a state income tax, right? They have switched the yes and no vote on this, in other words, and they've done this quite deliberately because they are trying to ghost pass a state income tax upon us here in the great state of Texas, dear listener, one of the 7 remaining in this union of states that does not yet have a state income tax. Okay? So, dear listener, just to be clear, you vote yes on Proposition 4. Everybody in the great state of Texas, don't fall for this trick. You vote yes on Proposition 4, which one more again. Let me read that in context. When you vote yes, you say, I am for the constitutional amendment prohibiting the imposition of an individual income tax, including a tax on an individual share of partnership and unincorporated association income. You vote yes on Proposition 4, dear listener. You are voting yes for a constitutional amendment to our state constitution that prohibits a state income tax. Okay? Now, I've just got to say, in obvious commentary right here, this is absolute skullduggery, scumbaggery, bullshittery that they have worded Proposition 4 this way. Dear listener, in the great state of Texas, they are trying to trick you into voting in a state income tax. We don't want it. Even most of the libs I know here in the state of Texas don't want a state income tax. Shit, that's why they've all moved from California to here. That's why we're blowing up to the tune of 300 people per day just in the city of Dallas, Texas alone. Right here, and you can see them. You can see these libs when they get here. Here in Dallas, dear listener, I see California plates. I see, Illinois plates, New York plates. Right? They are fleeing the states that they have destroyed to come here and enjoy the fruits of not having a state income tax until they're like, oh my God, we have to pay for these healthcare for illegals. We have to pay for all of these poor people. Oh my God, we have to take this property from you and we have to give it out to everybody else. And they're coming here to destroy the state again. And they've, like their home states, and they've gotten powerful enough to the point where they can put a tricky ballot measure on what we are all going to go vote unanimously for on November 5th on Proposition 4. Let me read that one more again in closing. You are going to vote yes because you oppose a state income tax. You are going to say you are for the constitutional amendment prohibiting the imposition of an individual income tax, including a tax on an individual share of partnership and unincorporated association income. Yes on Proposition 4. Dear listeners in the great state of Texas. Yes on Proposition 4. Let me say it one more again. Yes on Proposition 4 on November 5th, 2019. It's a Tuesday. Yes on Proposition 4 on November 5th, Tuesday of 2019. All right, dear listener, so much unspent ammunition on the table tonight. My apologies, and I'm sorry that this show is so long, but I hope you enjoyed riding along with me. Let's go ahead and slow down to a trot. Let's go ahead and slow down to a walk. Let's get ready to get off these horses, dry ourselves off from this rain, build up a campfire to protect ourselves from these coyotes, these snakes. Let's load our guns and let nobody get close to us tonight, and let's have fellowship. And dear listener, thank you so long for riding along with me for issue number 21 of Bots, Thoughts, and Drops, which is now in the books. Let's have some fellowship. And Luke and I are going to get ready for Hardly Strictly Politics number 58. It's going to be coming at you like a freight train before you know it. You believe that. Let's get comfy. Thank you so much, dear listener, and I will be back at you before you know it.